Aloha, everyone. I am so excited to talk to you today because my guest today is Anna Runkle. She's widely known as the crappy childhood fairy who has built a community of more than 1 million followers across platforms, including over 922,000 YouTube subscribers and more than 78 million views. For the past 3 decades, she's been helping people heal the lasting effects of childhood trauma so they can live happier, freer, and more fulfilling lives. A survivor of childhood trauma herself, Anna teaches the very techniques that saved her own life, methods that now bring powerful results to countless others. Her work, Anna has observed that one of the most common and overlooked effects of childhood trauma is a persistent sense of disconnection from others. This challenge isn't limited to trauma survivors. Many people, even those with relatively normal childhoods, find that making friends, joining groups, or mending everyday conflicts can feel daunting, fraught with shame or stress, and craving for connection is there. But the roadmap for how to build it often feels missing, leading to loneliness, strained relationships, and a sense that life is slipping by. Now, Anna's forthcoming book, Connectability: Heal the Hidden Ways You Isolate, Find Your People, and Feel at Last Like You Belong, will be coming out in October. And it offers a powerful guide for overcoming that disconnection and reclaiming a sense of belonging. Welcome to the show, Anna. I am thrilled to have you.
Thank you, Gina.
As a longtime listener of your show, this is kind of fun for me to have you here. So I have like a list of questions here, which is, we may have to get to, but I don't know. We're two women who kind of love the same kind of stuff. So we'd probably have plenty to talk about. But why don't you tell the people in my audience who may not know you yet how you became the crappy childhood fairy?
Well, I had childhood trauma. I know a lot of your audience has too. I grew up in a commune. My mom was a drug addict and alcoholic, and we had a lot of the problems that you would imagine would go along with that. And my family was hit pretty hard by the effects of that over the years. We had violence. We were very poor. We often went hungry. There was very little supervision for stuff like, creepy guys hanging around the house and whether we were going to school. I was a good student. I went to school all the time. I wanted to live there. I just loved my teachers. I loved that there was lunch. It was a great place for me. So I'm glad I had that. Like everybody has kind of a way that they cope, and I'm glad I went that way. Not all my
Mm.
siblings even survived, it past their 30s because of, how that affected them. But I was a very functional kid. I was a very functional teenager, sort of. In my 20s, I was very functional. And then when I was 30 one night, when I was already going through a couple hard things, my mom was in the middle of dying of cancer. Um, I got my heart broken very, very seriously some months before this week that came along. And then I got attacked on the street. I got just randomly beat up by a gang and beaten unconscious. They broke my jaw and my teeth. And I think I dealt pretty well with the psychological phenomenon of that, but neurologically, I had PTSD. And this was 30 years ago. And I don't think that regularly doctors or therapists thought of PTSD as something that non-combat veterans got, but I had it bad. And I was like emotionally freaking out all the time. I couldn't remember who I was talking to or what I just said. I was told because of my head injury, I was supposed to take 3 months off of work. My work said I could have a week, and I really, I needed to work. I had to have the money, and so I went back, and I was acting inappropriately at work. I was sort of popping off with anger and saying weird things I was like this close to getting fired. I'd pushed away my friends, and when my doctor said, "Well, we did a brain scan. You're not bleeding in there. It's fine." And I went to the therapist, and I live in California. You get this pot of money to go to unlimited therapy if you're a victim of a violent crime. So at the time, I thought, oh, great. I've always wanted to be able to go more than once a week. And I was going 3 times a week. And every week, my very well-trained, kind, intelligent therapist was telling me, let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about your feelings, about the heartbreak, the loss of your mom, this assault. And every time we talked about it, it would just completely destroy me. I would be shaking, crying. I wouldn't be able to focus my thoughts. And in a very sort of typical trauma kid way, I was very ashamed. I was scared I was going to get locked up. I didn't want to be locked up,
Right.
but I was acting so crazy. And I don't know, I just had all this shame and like fear. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe with anybody. And that wasn't crazy, that because it just wasn't understood what was going on. Like there was actually, in one sense of the word, there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. I was having a really normal reaction to getting violently attacked, to losing my mom, to growing up the way I did. But here's the thing. I had much worse childhood trauma symptoms underneath all that than I knew. I was such a high functioner. I was like, I would overdo it, kind of trying to get good grades, work myself to the bone. I didn't
Mm.
eat enough food. I smoked a lot of cigarettes. I drank so much coffee to get through the day. So I was like, I was sort of held together very in a fragile way. And I
Yes.
had no awareness of this. It's just not something we talked about, in therapy. We talked about my mom all the time. My mom was, you could talk about her forever, but my life problems were completely consuming my life, and I really needed help with them. And one night I thought I just was I was it had gotten so bad I really thought like I was unfixable and
Yeah.
unhelpable and that nobody was going to deal with me anymore. Like people were kind of fed up. I was very self-centered. It was like 2 or 3 months into after the attack. All I would ever do was talk about how upset I was, and I wasn't a very good friend to anybody, and there was just no frame to understand why I was acting that way. And I thought that I probably should not be alive anymore. And like a lot of traumatized kids, that's a thought that had crossed my mind before, but it started to seem like, yeah, I'm doomed. I'm not like other people. They all say it's so great. They go to their therapist, they feel better, problems are solved. My problems
Mhm.
were just rapidly getting so bad. I was legitimately worried I was going to be out on the streets.
Right.
And so a miracle happened. I told a friend how I was feeling, and she showed me a couple of techniques that
Mm.
helped relieve my anxiety and depression like very quickly. Didn't solve my
Yes.
life problems right away, but gave me this sense of peace and ease like right away.
Yes.
And that's how I feel today is like if something can't give you some emotional relief right now, then you need something that gives you emotional relief right now. That's not
Right.
something that can be punted into the future when you're in a crisis.
Right. Exactly. You have to, in order to do the continuing work of becoming a lovely, happy, peaceful human being, you have to have a moment where you can get the boat back on keel,
Yeah.
even if it's just momentarily. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I was in a time 30 years ago where there was no knowledge about that.
Mm.
And it was all like talk about the past, your feelings, your memories, what happened to you. And what happened to me was a lot. And pretty a long time ago, I was sort of like, I have talked about this with people. From time to time it comes up in my mind, but I kind of know everything there is to know about what happened.
Yep.
The whole area of feeling happier and having a better life had to do with present time in myself
Yes.
and lessons I didn't learn growing up feral, like how do you go on a date? How do you thank somebody when you actually didn't like the gift? How do you decline an invitation? How do you invite somebody to do something? How do you defer to somebody who's getting angry when you're having a debate about something? How do you I didn't know any of that. And that's why I say I was like it was like being feral, even though I had a master's degree. I ran into
Mm.
a lot of trouble with that. And so so what I learned 20 years after that night when I learned these techniques was there was a reason why when I learned them, I felt so peaceful, why within 2 weeks I was able to focus my mind better than I ever had in my whole life,
Mm.
why that feeling that I didn't belong on earth went away. There's a word for it, but it wasn't in the vocabulary yet. I had complex PTSD, which is the
Yeah.
kind that comes from chronic, ongoing, intense stress. And I had the core symptom of that, which is neurological dysregulation.
Mm.
My brain and nervous system were glitching. They weren't quite running the show properly. And sure enough, there were so many signs of that. So a lot of people know about dysregulation, but mostly what we talk about is emotional dysregulation because that's the one other people can see. So people who don't get dysregulated, they think that's the whole ball of wax. But that's just
Oh,
like an outer manifestation of neurological
okay.
dysregulation, which is affecting your immune system, your hormones, the relationship of blood flow to, healing. Like everything in your body is governed by your nervous system. And so
Yeah.
when that's not working properly, when it's getting frozen up, I don't know. I don't know what the right adjectives are. We sort of have to work in metaphors when we're talking about this marvelous thing, this being of light that is our insides,
Yeah.
that runs our bodies and our emotions and our thoughts. And I do think I believe in the soul. I think that there are parts of ourselves that are not governed by the nervous system, but
Okay.
it's a lot. And when it's not working properly, there's so many things that go wrong. I had all the classic health problems. I had asthma, I had back pain, I had Graves' disease, vitiligo, still have that.
Yeah.
Just migraines, just all the classic trauma signs that you get health wise. And
Mhm.
luckily, I learned how to re regulate at 30 because now, 31 years later,
Mhm.
these trauma driven health problems are quite deadly. We have a much higher risk of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, autoimmune disease,
Yeah.
dementia, just the list goes on and on, metabolic disorders. There's hardly anything that isn't made worse by trauma, but the significance of that correlation is very high. I used to
Yeah.
work in healthcare, and it's very rare that you see something that clear. So if people
Yes.
can learn to re-regulate, we can never have a perfect like spectrometer that shows like
Yeah.
how much of a difference did that make, but it's always wise to learn to re-regulate your nervous system and let your body kind of rise up and do what it can do, what it's designed to do. And
Yes.
so before I knew about dysregulation or complex PTSD, I had a surgery that went wrong and it ended up snowballing into 14 surgeries that went wrong. I was in and out of the hospital for 4 years. I was bleeding out. I had septic infections and they kept going, why? Why can't she heal? What's going on
Oh,
here? And now I have
oh,
an answer. I was going through so much trauma. It didn't help that I was having the medical trauma too, but I was going through a lot in my life.
yeah.
And when I was able to re-regulate, when I was able to come back to my techniques, when I was able to settle my body and let my body just kind of do what it does, it was able to overcome the injuries of the surgical error in the first place. I was able to overcome it, but that was
Yeah.
not expected. So you
Wow.
never know what you're capable of. And I was able to have close friendships and I was able to finally have a romantic relationship that was
Mhm.
good and, with a good person that turned into marriage. All of these things were
Mhm.
completely out of my reach before I knew
Right.
how to re-regulate.
Yeah. And you wrote a book on that,
I
right?
did. I did. I wrote a book. It's got the story, but it's
Yeah.
also got the instructions on how to do it. It's called Reregulated. Set your life free from childhood PTSD and the trauma-driven behaviors that keep you stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is key, right? So can you tell us a little bit about what the techniques were that began to help you? And then obviously you've developed so much from there because we're all different and we
Yeah.
all need different ways of regulating, I imagine. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I learned it from a woman who she had been living on the street with severe alcoholism, and she was
Okay.
4 years sober. She was very young
Yeah.
and kind of still very tough from her life, covered with tattoos, cursing, but also she was very full of spiritual light, I would say. She was on fire with like the joy of having recovered. And it
Yes.
was very attractive. It was like I didn't really believe many people, but I told her, I said, I think tomorrow I'm going to do it. I'm going to like I've got a plan to end my life. She was like, "Oh, yeah, I know that feeling." And
Mm,
she said, "Do you want to come in and have tea?" I would just given her a ride home. I don't know why I told her. I didn't tell anybody. I was so oh, it's just like the dirtiest secret to have, isn't it? But
yeah.
but I told her and she didn't freak out and we talked for a while. She told me her story of what had happened and how she had felt like ending her life when she first got sober. Like she was okay when she was drinking. She couldn't handle the
Mhm.
drinking, but then sober, she couldn't really handle it. And this woman, this beautiful woman named Sylvia, my friend was named Rachel. She met somebody named Sylvia who she was one of the original founders of Narcotics Anonymous down in LA.
Oh my
But
gosh.
she was working the 12 steps in this manner that not most people don't do. People do it in different ways, but it was like rigorous. It was like all the time if necessary, but definitely every day.
Mm.
And they called it the daily steps. And
Okay.
tons of people who were like dual diagnosis, misery, act out, lash out, violent people were getting
Mm.
sober and getting their lives together doing this.
Wow.
And when I met my friend, I just instinctively recognized her energy, both the rough part of her and the healed part of her. Like just,
Mm.
I just sort of like, I saw the thing that I needed in her. And she showed me, it's a very simple technique, but I teach it in a free course. If I could teach it to you right now in 5 minutes, I would, but it's got some nuance to it. I'm going to leave you with a link. Anybody can learn it. But
Absolutely.
it has to do with writing your anxious and angry thoughts and feelings on paper.
Mhm.
And I was originally shown, and I still do it to this day, how to do it basically in the form of a prayer. And in my audience, I have like over 1 million people are doing this with me around the world. And we have calls every week. I teach it for free. And many people find it helpful. And the ones who don't, who knows? I never see them again. But there's many people who have found it so helpful.
Yeah.
Um, and it's counterintuitive that we're supposed to just focus on our fears and resentments.
Mhm.
It's sort of people are like, shouldn't I focus on gratitude? I'm like, you will,
Mhm.
just like first this. And it's appealing to the highest power that you could possibly believe is there, the energy, the force, the being that is most there for your healing. We know there's a power because every time we scrape our skin, we don't have to know how to heal skin. We couldn't possibly do it. I don't think they've ever figured out how to artificially do that. Maybe
Yeah.
robots, I don't know, but your body knows how to heal.
It does.
Your body knows how to heal that. It knows how to fight infection. It knows how to make new skin cells. So there's this very strong healing force inside of us that will keep trying to take us in that direction. And it's trying to do that. I'm convinced with our trauma. The trauma, I think of the I think of childhood trauma as an injury. It's an injury to the spirit, but also the nervous system.
Mhm.
It's certainly a lot of the things we grew up with causes psychological injury, but I feel like the psychology aspect of it has been a little bit like overemphasized at the expense of the neurological aspect
Yeah.
of it. Because there's no healing until if you're just like running around, just like blah, 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 freaking out all the time. And anybody with
Right.
anxiety knows what I'm talking about. The
Exactly.
head full of cats, it's like
Yeah.
and so for there to be a simple way that costs nothing that you can use anywhere, you can dip into the bathroom at a party if you can still deal with people. Um, you can
Yeah.
if you still have a job, you can sit and pretend you're working, which I did. I'll give you a little aside. I feel okay about I try to be very honest, and I think that like not working when you're paid to work is theft, and it's
Mm.
not good karma. But if it helps you be more productive and be able to pay attention to your work, it's a good thing. It's like sharpening your pencil. It's allowed.
Yeah.
So, since then, my former employers know what I'm up to and they approve. But at the time, I was being very sneaky, and then when I started getting friends again, because my whole personality was lightening up, and I was able to like be present and connect again, I started having friends again, but a lot of times they found it inconvenient that I wanted to stop twice a day to write. And the second
Mhm.
technique is meditation, to meditate for 20 minutes. So it's
Mhm.
this exercise of writing these fearful thoughts and resentments, asking for them to be removed, or if the
Yeah.
person prefers, they can release them and they write a statement of release to reinforce. I'm just releasing this. I'm not renouncing it. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just
Right.
releasing it right now. I need it like I need some relief from it right now. I'm releasing it and then resting in meditation. And there's a little bit of mystery surrounding who figured out how to do this together, but it's a wonderful peanut butter and jelly, you know, a thing
Oh, I
that goes
love it.
together because people who are anxious or traumatized will often say, I can't meditate. I just can't
Yes.
sit still that long. It's like, of
Right.
course you can't. Of course you can't.
Right.
Why would you be able to do that? That's for other people. So the writing helps just kind of discharge a little bit of the, the noise, and then
Mm.
sit down with no expectation that you're going to empty your mind or focus on your
Right.
breath the whole time or anything like that. It's just take a rest, take a load off. Let
Yes.
that part of you that knows how to heal take over for 20 minutes. Just let
Yeah.
it happen.
Yeah.
And the first time I did it, it felt really good. Doing it regularly for years has been absolutely transformative. But the transformation began very quickly. When
Mm.
you're re-regulated, you start to have like you have a place to stand, to just be able to like observe what's going on and have some perspective on
Yes.
how did I walk into this problem? Why did I do it again? I knew that I
Mm.
never wanted to do this again, but I did. What just happened there? Like all these like sort of like analytical thinking and insights that I never had access to in dysregulated state.
Right.
I started to have insight, and it often came during or right after meditation, after my mind had rested a little. Like it
Mm.
always knew, but I couldn't access it.
Right.
So my development, my maturation started to happen very quickly. And I do think of it, I think of a lot of what it's like to have complex PTSD or any sort of wounds, from traumatic experiences is it can be like a developmental delay. Like it's coming,
Mm.
but it's coming too slowly. It's not coming at the right age.
Right.
And so that's a way to accelerate it. And some injuries of trauma, they're like amputations. You're not going to get a new limb. You know, I'm using
Yeah.
this metaphorically. Some injuries, like I'm never going to get my childhood back. I'm never going to have that
Yeah.
experience. But that's there. We have workarounds that we can do. And then other injuries, they actually can. Your skin can just come back almost like new, just about
Hmm.
like new. So
Hmm.
some injuries are like that, and there's no way to find out what's permanent, or what you're kind of stuck with or what's changeable until you get started. Sometimes you
Mm.
change one thing, you get a little healing in one aspect of your wound, and it
Mm.
kind of puts you on a whole new ground to make the next change. You can
Oh, it
see it,
does.
you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you find that those changes that you can't, like you can't get your childhood back, as an example, don't you think that gives us, it's fodder for something different in our lives, right?
Yeah.
Than say if you had had the perfect childhood or a better childhood even. And is there a place where you look at that and see what,
Yeah, that's always a complicated thing, isn't it? When it's like, I wouldn't wish my childhood on anybody.
of
If I could
course.
prevent anybody from going through anything like that, I
Yes.
would.
Yes.
Instead of like, no, this will be great. It'll like forge you in the fire.
It'll set you up for
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is reality. We each get dealt a hand of cards,
Yes, we do.
and we live with it and we do what we can with it. And as
Mhm.
much as we can, we draw on our inner strength to
Yeah.
try to be happy and to be okay. But
Yeah.
also, when you have had these experiences, you're in a unique position to help others, which I think is one of the most joyful things you can do in life.
Yeah.
So who would
Yeah.
I be without the trauma? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. We will never know.
Well, I'll
So
never know.
yes.
I'll
Yes.
never know. But yeah, but probably not this. And I
Yeah.
like where I am now. So I accept my hand of cards.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
accept it.
Yeah. Exactly. You
Yeah.
got it. You've accepted it, and there,
Yeah.
and you are going forward from there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Now, do you, I was looking over here at some of the questions that I could ask you, and I wanted to ask you exactly for my people that are listening, what is dysregulation and maybe some signs of it so they might be able to say,
Yes.
oh, what I start to identify with it, and
Yeah.
maybe it would connect them with being able to read your book and find out more.
Yeah, well, everybody gets dysregulated
Yes.
sometimes. Virtually everyone eventually will re-regulate.
Hmm.
But those of us with trauma or harsh anxiety will get dysregulated more of the time. And it'll be harder to get out of. It'll last longer. It can be more intense than what you see other people experiencing,
Mm.
And so these are some of the symptoms. Some of them you can feel, some of them you can't. Some of the most obvious things that you feel when it's happening are you feel discombobulated or just kind of like frustrated, like I'm dropping everything. I keep
Mm.
bumping into things. I open the drawer and hit myself in the knee.
Mm.
My relationship to my physical environment is just off. And in fact, that is part of dysregulation. Or you're losing track of time, or you're losing track of when it's time to sleep or time to wake up. You're losing track of when it's time to eat and when it's not time to eat. Like that gets very dysregulated for a lot of us. We're eating too much or not enough or just kind of all at once and not being able to handle it and then, starving all day. So there's all
Mm.
there's these all outward functions that are going odd. Sometimes you get
Mm.
numb. I'm very lucky. One of my symptoms is my nose feels numb, which is a very obvious
Mm.
sign. So if my nose is numb, that's often like a little sentinel that's like, you don't realize it yet, but you're actually like checking out right now.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
my signal. Do not make major decisions. Do not say things that are very intense, like, that's it, I'm leaving, I quit, because those thoughts, when I'm dysregulated, the thing about dysregulation is you're very detached, perhaps dissociated might be the word,
Yeah.
from your truest feelings and thoughts and your values and your good sense. Like, don't
Mhm.
storm out on the job. Like, wait, go talk to somebody about this. Figure out what
Mhm.
the options are. You know,
Yeah.
consider looking for a new job. All that like common sense stuff. And
Right.
that's for people who are prone to dysregulation. There are many burned up relationships and lost opportunities because of these
Mm.
outbursts. That's called emotional dysregulation.
Okay.
And emotional dysregulation is very painful and hurtful. Emotional dysregulation is probably what drives physically abusive behavior for people who are physically abusive. Most people with trauma are not, but people who are physically abusive usually are traumatized and
Yeah.
they are not able to regulate their anger. And I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying this is often what's happening. And and sadly, people have not, most of us have grown up in an age where nobody knew what to do about that. And I wonder sometimes if we're not the first people to figure this out. I noticed like there is an archaeological site in China where there's like thousands of these terracotta soldiers. Have you ever seen pictures of
No,
that, or
I
some people
haven't.
have visited it? Thousands of them, life-size soldiers marching in formation. I'm like, see, they
Mm.
were marching in formation 3,000 years ago. So if you were fighting battles, you're probably very, very dysregulated and, PTSD symptoms and nervous system just completely, oh no,
Yes.
knives. And there are a few things that we know are very helpful for re-regulation. And I'll talk about sort of a broader thing, but just what people have known for years is like singing together, chanting together as soldiers will,
Mhm.
moving together left, right, with left and right called out. And even these terracotta
Wow.
soldiers had the same foot forward. They were
Yes.
doing these like regulating things. And there's something about, and this is not very well understood yet, I hypothesize it has to do with our nervous systems or nodes on a greater sort of nervous system awareness or collective consciousness. So when you're with a group of people and you're all doing the motions together, the Macarena, the hokey pokey,
Mhm.
yoga,
Mhm. Yeah.
there's all these things that we do together that are extra re-regulating. Another dimension that makes such an activity extra re-regulating is doing it outside. So you're getting the
Mm.
cue of the sun, which is telling you what time of day is it, what season is it, where are we geographically. Like we have very fine awareness of, we're like little compasses.
Yes.
We probably know where the North Pole is. Our bodies know what's going on with the tides every day, even if consciously we don't know this stuff. We need to be attuned to nature, to each other, to our own bodies, to the
Mhm.
events that are happening right now, like people with knives are coming at you. That attunement is what gets just shattered with trauma. You lose the
Right.
attunement. So I hypothesize a nervous system phenomenon. It just can't process that information that's
Mm.
so crucial for your body to know. So we can give our body a little help with that. Going
Yeah.
outside more, moving more, whatever the movement is, any kind of movement is good. Like if somebody's got limitations, some movement, anything
Yeah.
that's connecting up the intention to move with a movement. So one of my favorite things to do is to go like sweep the front walk. It always has
Mm.
leaves on it, and it makes
Yeah.
me go outside and it makes me do something with my hands, and
Mhm.
it makes things look tidier, which I think is re-regulating.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes, I
visual
believe
chaos.
so.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
for me.
Yeah, so then I see the clear walk, and it feels satisfying in some way. It's just a little something to do when I'm feeling overwhelmed.
Mhm.
Washing the dishes,
Yeah.
that's a nice one because then you have the sensation of warm water,
Mhm.
slippery soap. Your hands are feeling things.
Yes.
When I'm dysregulated, I drop dishes. I've had dishwashing, washing up after a meal, for a group of people, maybe dinner for three of us. And I've
Mhm.
broken four dishes in four separate moments because I
Wow.
can't control my grip.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I went to the doctor. They're like, oh, it's MS. It's not MS. It just turns out my body can't talk to its whole self when I'm dysregulated, when I'm very like anxious and la, 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 flustered. It's that flustered,
Yeah.
anxious feeling. So I've learned that. I trip on stairs. So
Mm,
right before I learned about what is CPTSD and what is dysregulation, I was engaged to my now husband.
mm,
I was finding it stressful because I have a lot of wounds from, hard relationships, lost relationships, a divorce, a
mm.
partner who killed himself. You know,
I'm sorry.
I had all this stuff coming up. He's never going to stay. I just know it. And I was stressed, and we had an argument, and I tripped on a stair. We were about to get on. We were with my kids, and we were going to get on a Thames River cruise boat at the Tower of London
Mm, mhm.
for the kids. And there was this little step in the pavement, where everybody was waiting to get on the boat. And I slipped on it, and I was wearing a dress, and it flipped up over my head. And I didn't hit my head or anything. I was just embarrassed, but I was stunned from just falling.
Yeah.
And my kids were so traumatized by the shame they felt that their mom was laying there with her underwear showing and her dress flipped up over her head and just like
Yeah.
falling down. And we all got on the boat, and the whole family was just like traumatized by my dysregulation.
Oh,
And so when I learned there's a word for this, it was like the most powerful moment because I was living with so much dysregulation. I didn't know
mm,
what was wrong. It was so hard for me to focus all day.
yeah.
I could do intense bursts of productivity, and then I would just be like, people, I can't. And
Exhausted.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would get so overwhelmed by success, failure, whatever, having to tell, call up people and tell them we don't need them on the project today. Even that would just be so hard for me, or to ask for work from a potential client. I used to struggle with so much. And when I learned what the word was, I realized I had known all along. I had known since I learned those techniques. It
Yeah.
was 20 years between learning the techniques and then realizing, oh, that's what the techniques do. Because I was sort of half-assing it with the techniques at that point. I was like, I'm
Mm.
engaged. I don't need this anymore. I got the man. Like, we're good.
Life's good.
But I got
Mhm.
where I was like, when I don't use these techniques, I go down, and I go
Mm.
down to the same place, but
Good.
worse. And
Yeah.
so now I'm just like, I really accept. That's another hand of cards I accept. I use my techniques. I embrace my techniques. They help me. They are so worth it. So it takes about half an hour twice a day to do them. So people say,
Yeah.
that's too much. I
Okay. Half
can't do that.
hour.
Yeah, it's a lot. But, keep in
Oh.
mind, I was a single mom for 9 years, and I did it twice a day. And I got up, I
Yeah.
made it a treat for the kids. If they were very good, they could sit on my lap while I meditated. And we had a special
Oh,
blanket they could bring over to my lap and sit there. And they both learned to
yeah.
meditate. They both learned to write as well. Kids can do it. Um, and one of them still does it every day. They're
Oh,
in
I
their
love
20s
that.
now. Yeah, so they have a way to deal with stuff. And I'm really glad to have shared that with them. It also makes me glad to share it with the world. I think 15% of my audience, they are therapists and doctors and things, and many of them say,
Oh, I am
I
sure.
get dysregulated. And
Yes.
so there are many ways you can come at dysregulation. Some people do it with like somatic healing. Some people do
Mhm.
it with nature, time spent in nature and physical activity. There are a lot of ways you can come at it. I am the type, it's very thinky. I call it thinky. you
Yeah.
know. And so it does help me to use my body, but most of all, it helps me to get those thoughts on paper and like put them down and just be like, okay, there. I can just have a little space, a little oxygen, a little movement, a little open-mindedness about what's going on here, or just take a rest. Don't even think about what's going on, just rest.
Yeah.
Turn the page.
A
And
little
that's
side note here.
Mhm.
Do you prefer that people use pen to paper, which has always been what I have suggested for people.
Yes.
Yes, over the typing,
Or pencil.
correct?
Pencil's even more friction.
Pencils, even more
Yeah.
friction. I
Yeah.
love it.
I like pencils for that
Yes,
reason. I like mechanical pencils, so they're not like a hassle because
right. You
I
just click them.
write so much. But I've been writing twice a day for so long that now the minute I'm writing anything, even a grocery list, I start to relax.
Yes,
I start to release the
exactly.
stress
Yeah.
and my mind clears up. And I think of myself as somebody who has an uncommonly clear mind now. And I
Oh,
do
I
get
love
brain
that.
fog sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, when I got COVID, I was brain fogged for 7 months. I was really sick. I
Yeah.
recovered, but I'm really
Thank
aware when I'm brain
goodness.
fogged. And I've also noticed like if I eat a lot of sugar, I'll brain fog. And that's kind of like for me, sugar and before that cigarettes, those are ways that I used to see. I sort of I'm like, thank God for the addictive behaviors because when you
Yeah.
don't have a better solution to just like take the pressure off,
Yeah.
you got to take the pressure off. You
Yeah.
know, our brothers and
Yeah.
sisters are in dire straits out there somewhere. And it's like, you need a cigarette, you need a cigarette. And then when
Yeah.
you have something better you can do, you can let it go. You can let it go.
Exactly. We can take steps up. We don't have to do it perfectly right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was a time, to a degree, they used to help me regulate. They used to help me like
Yeah.
release my emotions. You get to go outside for a while and you're like, you
That's right.
know, you know,
I always used to say it isn't fair. The smokers get a break.
I
They get to go
know.
outside.
I know.
Yeah.
So we get a writing break. And then I
Yeah.
had the pleasure. Have you ever, do you know about James Pennebaker and his
Yes,
work
I
on
do.
expressive writing?
Yes.
Yeah, I got to hang
Please
out with
share.
him.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, he endorsed my book. I'm so honored, and he's such
Oh,
a wonderful, nice person. So I was in Austin. I asked if we could hang out, and he said yes. And I explained to him what I'm doing, and he goes, "Yep, yep, that makes sense." And his technique is a little different than what I do. It doesn't involve meditation afterwards. But I said, but I
right.
think that those of us who are pretty rattled going into it, we kind of
Yeah.
need something extra or it's too much. And he said, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. You know, he's like a
Oh,
world-renowned psychologist. And
yes.
there are
Yes. Very well known.
2,000 peer-reviewed studies on what his work has found is that writing has a unique therapeutic value that's different than the value of speaking, which for many of us, like me, I've seen a statistic that it was about 30% of traumatized people are like me. Talking about trauma is so overwhelming. It's not the
Yeah.
best way to get relief. We all need to
Yeah.
talk about it at some point. We need to express ourselves, but writing is expression. You can read what you
Yes.
wrote. And to this day, when I make videos where I'm being a little bit more self-disclosing about hard things I've been through, it's
Mhm.
always written and teleprompted. And luckily, I'm very good at reading my own writing as natural speech. But that
Yeah.
prevents me from getting all dysregulated when I'm talking about a hard thing from the
Oh,
past.
that's a wonderful tool for you then. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody listening, if you've noticed that talking about stuff tends to make you more upset, try it. Try writing about it instead. Now, a lot of people journal, and journaling is great, or they do the morning pages from the artist's way. There's
Morning
a lot of
pages.
ways that people have already figured out that writing is therapeutic.
Mhm.
The thing that's different about the daily practice is we're not trying to write to remember or record or look for patterns. We're
Right.
dumping. We're basically just like,
Dumpling.
it's just a dump,
Yes.
and then you tear it up. And the reason
Yeah.
it's written at the end, please remove this. But so it's done. It's already removed, but we tear it up so that nobody reads it. You need
Yeah.
absolute privacy between you and your
Yes.
piece of paper so that you can put,
Yeah.
because the thoughts in here can be pretty ugly. They're hateful. They're things you would never want people to know that thought you had. And I think the most loving thing and responsible thing we can do with hateful thoughts is get them
Mhm.
on paper, just like face it. I call it facing it. We face what we're feeling. We name it. We say
Yes.
specifically what it is. And,
Yeah.
um, and then we ask for it to be removed. And this has become a very spiritual practice for me over the years. And when people come to my calls, I talk less about the spirituality on YouTube, which is where most people contact my work, but I do free
Yes.
Zoom calls. Me and my team do them every week for anybody who wants to come and do the techniques, and we take questions. And there you'll get a little bit more of the spiritual aspect for me of how
Oh, good.
important it is, I think, that anybody who can free themselves of this grinding resentment towards other people. I know that it's
Yeah.
not our fault we became this way, but we can do terrible harm in the world with
Yeah.
that resentment, and we can limit ourselves terribly. And I just have found that now that I have a way to get free of it, not only do I have less of it, but I've been able to, I don't know, be someone inspiring and helpful and uplifting for others, like in a big
Mm.
way. And if
Yes.
everyone can be like that, everyone can
Yeah.
be like that. But there
Yeah.
it's you need to know how to get free first. And I don't think like everything that we get told about trauma is freeing.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people identify with it. Well, I'm traumatized, or I have PTSD or
Hmm.
CPTSD, and they just stay there. Like they're even if
Yeah.
they're in therapy, often they will report to me that it isn't moving anywhere. They don't feel
Yeah.
any kind of relief, I guess. And like we talked about earlier, sometimes you just need even a little relief so you can continue forward.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
little relief and then a little space to be able to see what can you change. And I remember when I
Yeah.
was like really under the weight of it all, it was very hard for me to think of being culpable for any of my problems
Uh,
because I was like this close to not being able to handle life at all.
right.
So if you were to say, "Well, Anna, I think you're making self-destructive choices," which I was, I would have
Yeah.
been like, "Oh God, that you're gonna shatter me. Like I can't
Yes.
hate myself any more than I do and stay alive. I just
Yeah.
can't." So
Yes.
I didn't have a safe way to be able to like look at, oh, I see, I'm making self-destructive choices, which is actually a
Mhm.
lovely, it's actually wonderful because it's like, ah, something I can change. I
I
may not
am
know
in
how.
control.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, we're in control, but it's a whole different category than things that happened in the past that other people did. That's two ways that you can't control it.
Mm. Exactly.
But the other thing is, and I think, everybody is experiencing this in one way or another, but we're in this sort of like cultural moment where sometimes, I mean, it's so easy to be invisible. It's so easy to be overlooked and no one cares about you. There's so much alienation, and that's why I had to write my second book. But
Yeah.
in order to be cared about, sometimes it helps to have a problem like this, you know?
Hmm.
I hate it when people say, oh, there's no such, oh, boo hoo, grow up, stop
Hmm.
focusing on your trauma. They have no idea what many of us have been through. It's
Exactly.
understandable that we cry and that it's hard and that we're not getting over it instantly. But it's also true that focusing on it exclusively, what happened, how terrible it was, it doesn't tend to move you forward. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really have found that the most potent place to put your attention, provided you also have had a chance to just talk and get some validation what happened to you, but that may be in the future for you. Like here right now, whether or not you've had that or not, you can start to just say, right now, I am resentful at,
Yeah.
the person who parked in front of my house
Hmm.
because I have fear they're throwing all this garbage out on the street, and fear they've got curtains drawn over the windows, and fear there's some child molester, and fear I'm scared to walk out there. Oh, I have
Yeah.
fear, And
Yeah.
so we start to be able to name what it is that's bothering us. And just in this random thing that I just invented out of my mind about something we might feel both scared and resentful about, you might find that you have the power to just go out there and go, or get somebody to go out there with you and go, what's going on here? Pick this
Yeah.
up. Or,
Yeah.
whatever you're going to forget about it if you choose, call the cops. All choices are on the table
Mm.
when you are free from, just being like paralyzed with fear and resentment. When
That's
people
the word, Anna, paralyzed.
paralyzed. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and mentally paralyzed with it too.
Yes.
So that's why I think it can be dangerous to focus too much,
Mm.
on the abuse that happened, on who did it, why did they do it? Some of
Mm.
these things are unanswerable.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you shouldn't ask, but as long as, I mean, my priority is always like, what's going on with me right now? What am I getting all dysregulated over? What's the trigger? There are
Yeah.
actually, so when I say trigger, a trigger is something that plops you into dysregulation. And for me,
Yeah.
it could be a criticism, it could be a loud noise. I'm often out here
Hmm.
working in my office. It's a separate structure, but it's near, there's all these backyards around me. Somebody starts using a leaf blower or a power washer or something, and I'm just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
how am I supposed to think at all? You know? My husband is just like, what? I'm like, do you hear that? And he's like, hear what? He's like totally not noticing it.
Right.
So,
Right.
so I need techniques. I need
Yes.
techniques to just like come back.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's what all of that writing and meditation has done for you. It's given you, will you speak just a little bit on the need for it to be consistent and to actually kind of make the commitment to do it?
Yeah. Um, it it's very hard to be consistent and make a commitment to do it. And there's no sense in beating yourself up if you're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very patient and gentle about that. It took me about 3 years to get very regular with it. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing that did it is a whole bunch of bad things happened again. And I was very upset and I couldn't really function well. And
Yeah.
so it's just my emotional pain and my distress got me interested in doing it twice a day. And then I got in the habit and it got easier. 10 years
Mm.
later, I dropped it again. Then I got some more experiences that threw me back into pain and I got
Yeah.
back to it again. And so over time, it's just become more natural and grooved in.
Yeah.
So I put in front of people, when you do it twice a day, it works very powerfully.
Mm.
If you can only do it once in a while, it works pretty well
Still works.
in the
Yes.
moment, but there's a whole different thing that happens from regular use. And it's this is where it gets sort of philosophical, but I think it's very hard to trust or believe that any sort of like intention or prayer or anything is real and does anything. And no matter how much somebody, you could be like completely convinced that, oh yeah, there's a God, God is going to do this for me. But you're just going to have waves and ups and downs of like, is this even doing anything? Does anything in the universe care about me? Do I matter? Am I ever going to change? Like, that's how we roll. That's like life is
Yeah.
all over the place. So when you have just a consistent practice and you just do it twice a day,
Yeah.
you start to learn in your bones. I don't know why. I don't know what that power is, maybe. I don't know why, but I'm doing my duty to get free again this morning,
Yeah.
free again this afternoon. I'm just going to relax up again. I'm going to try to be my best. I'm going to try to access my insight, my wisdom. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to try to be connectable. Well, this is one of the hardest things about being dysregulated all the time is that you cannot feel a connection with other people.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that I probably am pushing this idea louder than anybody.
Well, good. I'm
Mark my
glad.
words,
Tell
though.
us. Tell us.
I just, when you're dysregulated, it draws you into yourself and you can't feel connected. And besides, if you grew up neglected, maybe your mirror neurons got a little bit of not enough attention for
Mm-hmm.
their development. Maybe there's a delay there. Maybe there's something that didn't develop the way it was supposed to on schedule. Maybe you don't know if and when you're going to become like other people in that way. But a lot of people who are traumatized feel like there's a mystery wall between them and other people. They see other people hanging out. They seem to know a language. They seem to be on a Wi-Fi.
Mm. Yeah.
What is that? Why don't I understand how you're supposed to act like? Why do I put my foot in my mouth? And other people seem alienated by things I say and do. Like that's a really common experience for people who grew up with trauma. It's also common for people who are introverted, socially awkward, maybe on the autism spectrum. So it's
Mhm.
not just trauma, although if you have anything that alienates you from people tends to be its own kind of trauma.
Yes, it
And
is
so,
trauma.
yeah. So we all need to do how we all need to learn how to connect. We sometimes these are you're just doing the outward movements of being a connectable person. I made up the word connectability. It's the
I
title of
love
my
it.
book.
I know I had to practice it a few
Yeah,
times so I wouldn't say
connectability.
it wrong.
I've been saying this word for a long time. I used to do it like, look at those moms. They're so connectable. I have no idea. Like I just never fit in
Yeah.
with the other school moms.
Yeah.
And felt really stressed to be around them and like I don't know what are the rules here. I just didn't get it, and I assumed it was a social deficit maybe, but now I know it was also in my nervous system. It was also in
What?
just like I had a lot of shame. There were like so many ways that I had a hard time connecting with people, so I tended to only connect with people who were very damaged too, or maybe who were worse than me in terms of functioning. And twice, like two of my romantic relationships with men who I did not know this going into the relationship, but later in the relationship, they ended up, one of them relapsed onto heroin, one of them had been using it all along. And
Mm.
it was this terrible shock that I couldn't see coming. And because it happened twice and they both died, I had
So
to ask
sad.
myself, yeah, like none of my friends had had two partners die like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had to ask myself. I had to go very deep on that. Why is that happening now? Well, my mother was using heroin. My brother died of heroin. I
Mhm.
have a blind spot, I have a weird thing. But there's this way that people who are like, I mean, like heroin addiction is widely frowned upon. You are not functional. You are really a screw up, right? There's a certain kind of safety for that in me. It's like, well,
Uh,
you're the screw up. I'm like the functional one. And I
yeah.
don't know, there's a certain kind of safety. And
Mm.
interestingly, people on opiates tend to be very chill. I'm laughing at myself. It's not funny. It's sad, but it's funny. Like they're chill. And so me and all my like sharp edge, like somebody called me a serrated knife once. I was just like, so like,
Oh,
you know,
oh
they
my
put up with you.
goodness.
I don't know. I don't have better answers for why did that happen. I couldn't see it coming. I understand why I had that blind spot, but I couldn't
Yeah.
understand why I kept going, why there was anything appealing to me about that, even with the obvious downsides. And so I had to learn how to re-regulate in order to be able to cope with people. People are very triggering. People make me dysregulated. So much less now, though. I have tools. I have friends who understand who I can talk to about it. Like, oh, I have to go to this function, and it's full of all those kinds of people that I find triggering. And they'll go, oh, yeah, yeah, here. Do you want to like text me in the middle of it? And we have a shared value that we don't expect to try to stop the people who trigger us from coming to the event. We have an
Right.
expectation that we're going to learn to become neutral to people as they are, unless we need a boundary that we will take care of ourselves with. Like, I won't go if it's like this. If people are going to get violent, there's one. I'm not going to go. If it gets
Right.
violent, I'm going to leave. That's an example of a boundary. Sitting there going, you guys, stop being violent. Stop. That's not a
Yeah.
boundary.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But that's what a lot of us sort of came to believe was a boundary, trying to make people change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to make them see it our way. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's true and it's right and I deserve it. And that's all. Yeah. Yeah. But here you are. Here
Yeah.
you are spinning out and losing your faculties and not being able to take care of yourself in a situation because of this misunderstanding that you have a nervous system that requires protection and you're the person who's been appointed with the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Connectability.
Connectability.
I'm
Yeah.
really excited for this. Now, is this one going to be talking about the neurological dysregulation at all?
Yeah.
Do you bring that in?
It
Okay.
does. It does. It builds on the first book, and I go back into dysregulation and the role that trauma or just being different, being some people call like complex PTSD neurodivergence, and I don't know if that's true, but it has similarities of just feeling very overwhelmed by social interactions and kind of having an urge to avoid it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who respond to my work don't realize that they're avoidant. Sometimes they think everybody else is avoidant, but when you're avoidant, it's like the example I gave of myself and the drug addicts. It's like, who's avoidant, right?
Yeah.
If it's a pattern with you, like I'm avoiding people who are actually emotionally available and able to
Mm.
do functional things with me. And so sometimes we're avoidant in I call it covert avoidance or we just
Interesting.
we're holding people at arm's length or we participate. Some people are married, they have a job where they deal with other people, but it's always like fake, shallow, no, there's no real commitment there. The marriage proves over time, the spouse will just feel like abandoned even though the person is physically present. So we do it by looking at our phones, have you ever, I've done it. I've done it. I have to like consciously not do it. I ask somebody, let's go have coffee. Then we're sitting there talking and I'm looking at my phone. It's like, well, why did I just leave? Why did I just leave? And
Yeah.
part of it's
Yeah.
like the phone is addictive, but also it's just like, I don't know, it's a little stressful. People are talking. I just
Yeah.
shared an opinion. What if they don't like it? I'll look at my phone. Or busyness. I'm just so busy. And as
Yeah.
somebody who's had periods of my life where that was always my shield, I'm so busy. I can't be
Mm.
expected to bring food to the potluck. I
Yeah.
actually put that as a symptom of covert avoidance. You go to potlucks and you bring nothing, or you bring something that you grabbed at a gas station, which is
Yeah.
fine. Like if you're poor, if you're a single mom, if you're in a crisis, if you just
Yeah.
can't do it right now, fine. I throw potlucks every month. It's totally fine for people not to do that. But when you have the means and the time to
Yeah.
bring an entree. You know,
Yeah.
be one of the
Exactly.
menches. You know,
Yes.
bring
Yes.
something delicious, bring something delightful, and participate in that. That's like a form of avoidance. And that was
Mm.
something I had to bust myself on. It was always like bag of chips, or nothing. It's like I brought nothing. I'm a single mom,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
but that wasn't really why. Being late to everything. I was always
Interesting.
late to things,
Mhm.
and there's a T-shirt that says, "I'm sorry I'm late. I didn't really want to be here." And that's kind of the secret truth of what covert avoidance is like.
Wow.
I want people, but I'm in resistance to the whole thing. So
Resistance.
yeah, and then we just have other things. If you don't have boundaries, you can't really form close relationships. You can't risk it.
Mhm.
You have to be avoidant. If you don't have boundaries, how are you going to get out of a weird situation? And then we end up with our lives very populated with mean and troubled people. Growing up with
Mm.
trauma, if your life has been hard, that's who's in your life. You've probably been putting up with bad treatment, many of us. And so then you end up with a certain kind of rough edge from that. And
Mm.
healthy people sense it. They're sort of like, what's going on? She looks very bedraggled. She makes
Mm.
cynical comments when that's kind of an odd thing to do. You
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
she laughs at tragedy, you know. They're like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And so that close relationship doesn't form. There's not that sense of connection and trusting openness there. So there's a lot of things. Our perception has been damaged. We read situations wrong. We can't read the room. We hear these platitudes of always trust your gut, but if you get emotionally dysregulated and you tend to fill up with fear and belief that everybody's against you, maybe the first thing isn't to trust your gut. The first thing is to go use your techniques, then check in with your gut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the techniques give you the space to be able to do that,
Yeah. Yeah. For many of us.
to reflect.
Yeah. It's just a little more space to be attuned to just sort of, you don't
Mhm.
even have to query it. You don't have to work hard. It's so counterintuitive how passive it is. You just sort of let go and rest.
Yeah.
You barf
Yeah.
out your you barf out your feelings on paper, and then you rest a little bit, and you don't have to make it go anywhere. You don't have to will yourself to have a better attitude or anything. A better
Mhm.
attitude just tends to come. But sometimes when we think we're supposed to have a positive attitude or go out there and be Pollyanna-ish, sometimes that's not the right thing. So the techniques kind of allow you to just sort of like let go of that for right now. I don't know. I don't know where I'm supposed to go with this. I'm going to use the techniques and see what happens. And that's been a
Yeah.
big surprise. You can sometimes just sort of let go of the outcome more than you think, and
Yeah.
things turn out very well, and the insight comes. I think I heard this, when I hung out with all those alcoholics in AA, they would say like you can't fix your life with the same broken mind that created the broken life, or something
Exactly.
to that effect. I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing, but that's what it is. It's letting your mind kind of repair itself a little bit, and then sort of seeing what you think, seeing
Yeah.
what you do. But the other thing, that when you have a way to get emotionally free, or relief anyway, you get more relief, you don't have to fear mistakes so much. And if we're going to grow, we're going to make mistakes all the time. And a lot of
Right.
us, because of how we were raised, or because of, being always at the precipice of our lives falling apart, we're terrified of mistakes. We keep our lives very, very small so that we don't get into situations that are going to like cost us our income or our place to live or our relationship or our sanity. And so when you have these techniques, you can, I don't know, take a little bit, let your life be a little bigger, take a risk, go try something, go
Yeah.
on the date. And if the date is awful, then go, oh, I'm out of here. And then go write about it, and all those feelings of like, I'll never meet anybody, that goes
Yeah.
there too. I think it was a
In our group,
serial killer. That goes there too, all of it. And then you just have a little more room. You can handle what happens.
yes.
Yeah.
Of course. In our group, we call that research and development.
Oh yeah, I like
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
R&D.
Yeah. So we don't have to, so you can go out and try again. It's not the end
Yeah.
of the world. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
you'll
just,
never learn if you
you'll
can't
never
try.
learn. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
So,
Anna,
yeah.
I'm sorry, but I was just thinking before we begin to close up, I was
Mhm.
wondering if you can offer the hope. Like we've talked about a lot of big things, like
Yeah.
a lot of And I know people are experiencing them. They are on this path.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that you can offer some hope because you've talked to a lot of people. You've
Yeah.
been doing this work for a long time. Give us the future, what it can look like for people.
Oh, it's I feel like this is a revolution, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean, I used to get told, I'd say, I don't know, I'm just feeling worse and worse all the time. And I would get told by the experts, well, it's going to have to get a lot worse before it gets better, and it's going to take a long time. And I'm telling you, you don't have to listen to that. It
yeah,
can get better right now. You can't solve all your problems overnight, but it can get better right now. If you have a way to get emotional relief right now, there's two things I think are the most important things to have, and one is tools that you've tried some tools and you've found some that are helpful, and people who
yeah,
get it. And
yeah,
too many of us are trying to do all of our healing all by ourselves.
yeah,
And you can only get so far with that. A little bit, yeah, sometimes we need to pull away from people, but at a certain point we need other people. So the first 25 years of my healing I was doing in the 12-step program for families of alcoholics. And it was wonderful. It had a lot of limitations too. It wasn't like utopian, but it was a
mhm,
place where I could go where there were other people and we all basically agreed we're trying to be more functional. I also had
yeah,
the opportunity to witness hundreds of people, thousands of people, and say these I could just see how are they doing this program, and how's this person doing this program, and what ends up happening over time. That was like my
yeah,
PhD in, strategy. That was like,
exactly.
I see. And people who were very willing to get down and look at their own part in things and what
Yeah,
they could change as they were at the same time looking at their circumstances and the people they couldn't control, but really get that piece in there. They made so much more progress. So I was like, okay, beeline, I will do that. I did it
yeah,
to excess even. I blamed
yeah.
myself for everything for a while. I wanted to
Oh,
be able to fix everything.
yeah,
But
yeah,
as we heal, we start to go, yeah, I can't change it. I guess that's the serenity prayer, accept
yeah,
the things you cannot change. Hmm. Maybe the answer was always right there. Um, so that was there. But when I found out what specifically was ailing me,
yeah.
it was an outside issue there, and I started my own thing in my living room, and then so many people were coming, and it got into the hundreds and thousands, and YouTube took off.
Mhm.
So I structured this as something different. It's just like I'm just going to keep healing. I'm going to keep being honest about what's happening for me, and I'm going to share it with you. And then everybody reflects back in the comments and their letters, and
Yeah.
they blow my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's real. It's not just me. Like, is it just
No.
me? That should be like the T-shirt for people who have been damaged by trauma. Is it just me? I don't.
Yeah,
Should I
exactly.
be mad? Should I be happy? Is everything okay?
Oh,
So they
yeah,
reflect back, and I'm like, damn, it works.
it
And
does.
yeah, it works. And so it's so important to know that it's good to consult experts when you need expert help.
Mhm.
It's good to do that. And it's good to change experts when you realize they're not helping you. And it's good to
Yes, it is.
constantly be doing your R&D about
Yep.
what is helpful to you because people are different. And if one thing doesn't work, you don't give up. You go, let me try something different. And I love that the online media give us an opportunity to learn about what other people are doing. A lot of it's just
Yeah,
junk. You don't have to worry. If it feels like junk, you don't do it. If
right.
it feels like too good to be true, don't worry about it. But if something in you goes, let me give that a try and treat
Yeah.
it like a coffee date.
Yeah.
It's a coffee date. Just give it a try and then, do a gut check. How was that? Ah, I'm going to do it a second time. I'll do it and to
Yeah.
keep going and to be
Yeah.
sovereign over your healing in that way. And don't
Yeah.
wait for, some of the most discouraged people, they're like, well, my insurance has said I'm authorized to see a therapist now, but it's not going to be for 2 years. I'm like, great, you
Oh,
have 2 years to get going here on what you can change. I don't think it's
yes.
great that anybody has to wait for help, but it
No.
doesn't mean there is no help. Yeah.
Exactly. There is so much more help out
Yeah.
there now than we were talking earlier about our age than when we were
Yeah.
younger and struggling. I mean, there was not much available in
Yeah.
my world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this has just been so delightful to spend time with you because, like I said, I have seen you on YouTube for a long time, and your work is so helpful, and so many benefiting. So please remind everybody who's listening where they can find you
Mhm.
and learn more about you and both of your books
Mhm.
and your YouTube.
Yes.
Let us give us the drill
Yes, my
here.
YouTube channel is called Crappy Childhood Fairy. I hope that makes it clear. This is not therapy. I'm teaching you my experience. And my website's called the same thing, Crappy Childhood Fairy. A lot of people just call me Fairy. I do answer to that, or they call me Tough
Mhm.
Love Fairy.
Aw.
And, so my website is where you can find, I have online courses, I have monthly webinars, I've got, a lot going on, live workshops, retreats, coaching programs. I have a team that helps me with the individual coaching for people. And yeah, this is something totally different than what other people are doing out there. It's just very like person to person, not therapy. We're not helping you with your past. We're helping you with your present and what you're trying
Exactly.
to release and change in your life. And we have a membership program that has a whole bunch of wonderful people in it who are walking that path together. We have a secret Facebook group
Yeah.
where they hang out and they lead peer-led daily practice calls many times a day. So we have this
Nice.
whole community of people who are just kind of immersed in the method, and then they're sharing about what results they get. And I just encourage anybody to give it a try. Give it a try
Oh,
and see if you're one of the people who does respond to this.
well, you're certainly making a lot of opportunities for them to try.
Thank
And
you.
I will put links to all of that in the show notes so it'll be easy for people to
Thank you.
get to you. And so thank you so much, Anna.
Thank
I
you.
really enjoyed spending time with you.
Bye, Gina.